collaboration with the Cyprus Mail, this is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Charalambous.
Coming up on the programme this week, we'll discuss at length the huge problem of the pollution on the Limassol coast.
To my mind, there is, in the whole sewage case in the sea, in Limassol, there is a peculiar silence from everybody. Nobody allows people to see the reports. All the politicians in Limassol are keeping quiet.
And we hear some good news for a certain section of our civil service, plus the news that more citizens' advice centres are going to be opening up.
We have now 8 citizen service centres operating all over Cyprus, and we're trying to do our best to expand the services offered so that we improve the quality to the citizen.
The reports on the pollution around the Limassol seafront cannot have escaped your notice. It's been a big story now for the last couple of months. But actually, if you look back, it's been in the news for probably a couple of years. And the latest we had is that the ministry said, please be patient, we're looking into it. Now, joining us to discuss this very serious issue, particularly at this time of year when so many people head to the beach, is the former Commissioner for the Environment and now an MP, Vambos Theobemptou. Vambos, let's start at the beginning, because I mentioned a couple of years ago, and the TEPAC Technology University in Limassol, I think, did issue a report after looking into this. So why have we still got this problem? I think it's not just raw sewage, although that's part of it, which is pretty disgusting, but there's other pollution as well, isn't there? So can you just give us a picture of what the problem is according to this report that was issued a couple of years ago?
Okay, I must clarify that the report was based on chemical analysis. So it wasn't a report that people will actually go and check all the possible sources of pollution. What they did, they took samples of the water at various points, and they did a chemical analysis to identify the source of the pollution. So they identified pollution coming from the fish farms, and they identified normal sewage. So these are the two types of pollution that the chemical analysis discovered.
Can I just stop you there and say, back in the day, there was a time before we had a proper sewerage treatment plant in Limassol that most of the hotels just flushed everything out to the sea, and there were scandals back then about raw sewage and poops floating past you as you tried to swim. I thought most of our beaches had a blue flag. How is this possible?
It's a question I have myself. You realize that in the cases where in Limassol, for instance, we have, and the first letter we have for pollution on the beach is from 2010. But in the last 5 or 6 years is ridiculous. The frequency is every 2 or 3 days now. Before it goes just for a day suddenly.
And that, we should say, could have been, I think, from ships anchored outside the harbour who were not treating their sewage, which they're obliged to. Who checks that, for example? They were just dumping it in the sea.
So, what are the possible sources of pollution? One possible source is, for instance, from passing ships. Okay? That you cannot control. You can only fight when you see it. And another possible source of pollution is the ships that are parked outside the Limassol port. So you get a number of ships that they come there, they park either for repairs or for the crew to go on holidays and have some time off or on land, and then they go. The regulations say that in a situation like this, the Port Authority has the responsibility to provide boats that will actually take all the solid waste, for instance, kitchen waste and stuff, as well as the sewage. Now, the interesting bit is that we had a boat that will go and pick up the solid waste. When I was elected an MP in 2016, the first thing I did, I wrote a letter to the Port Authority, and I said to them, do you have a boat that actually collects the sewage from the parked ships on the Limassol waterfront? And they said, yes, we have this boat, this company, and they gave me the name of the company, which I checked, and it didn't have a license to do this. So I don't know whether there was actually a boat that I was collecting all the sewage.
Hang on. Was it still then a semi-government organisation,
Yes,
the Ports Authority?
yes, yes.
How can it outsource a job like this to somebody who doesn't have a licence?
It's illegal, exactly. To my mind, it's questionable whether there was such a company doing the business. But in any case, after all this pressure, finally this year, they have a licensed boat that actually goes and collects the sewage as well as the rest of the waste.
And what does it do with what it's collected?
Okay, that is exactly the question, because when you are a licensed collector, you get two permits. One is to collect and transport,
And the other is to
and
dispose.
the other is to dispose it and manage it. We have a sewage treatment plant up in Vadi. So the theory is that you need a registered company that will actually collect it and take it to Vadi. Now, all types of waste, under EU law, you have to be able to trace its route. You sign when you receive, you sign when you deliver. So there must be papers that you can check to find out where it came from and where it ended.
And does Vati have the paperwork to show it
They
was
don't.
delivered?
They don't for the moment. But in any case, that is one source of pollution that we have. The other source of pollution is that we have passenger boats that do boat trips for tourists along the coast. Okay, coastal tourism. These boats, by law, they have to have a container tank so that when they do the travels in the sea, they will actually collect all the sewage. And when they arrive at port, they will empty the sewage in licensed facilities of the port. The old port of Limassol does not have these facilities.
And is that the port that the boats use?
Yes. So when you ask, they tell you, you know, there is we call somebody to actually come and pick it up. But again, I doubt
Is there a paper
it.
chain? No, there's
No,
not.
there's nothing. So the same problem appears in all coastal cities because you don't know where the boat will actually drop them. So this is the other source of pollution. The other source of pollution, which is, I need to explain it a little bit, is that if you go to any of the coastal cities in Cyprus, all the rainwater, the drains, end up on the beach. So if you walk, for instance, in any waterfront, in any of the coastal cities in Cyprus, you'll see the drains coming out to the beach. Okay? In Limassol, it's very easy to see them because they are on the beach. You walk along, and every few 100 meters, you see a drain coming out, a drain coming out, a drain coming out. And what is the link? In the new Limassol port, when the ships come in, they didn't have a system to actually pump automatically the sewage into the Limassol sewage treatment port. Okay? So what they used to have, people will come with trucks and receive the sewage from the boats. And the question I asked, do you have control where the sewage goes? I mean, when the truck actually picks it up, where does it go? And I know from my wife's job that one of the easy cheats that these people will do, they will have if you have a truckload of sewage, and you don't want to travel a long distance to deliver the sewage because you need to empty it as quickly as possible to go to the next job. So what they used to do, they either empty them in rivers, or they find somewhere in the city that nobody can see, and they put the pipe and they empty it in the drains. And all the drains, of course, end up on the beach. This is another source of pollution.
But the other one that's been mentioned recently with this huge problem that now exists is the Limassol Marina. Now,
Exactly.
What is the connection there? That's a new marina, and presumably it was built with all the relevant permissions to make sure these issues are dealt with.
Of course. But because the Limassol Marina is recent in its operation. And from the day the marina actually started operating, a lot of people claim that we have a more frequent and an increased amount of sewage into the sea. We need to check whether the marina actually did what it was supposed to do in order to manage its sewage. The problem is that if you walk along the marina, you see pipes coming into the water, and we need to investigate what are these pipes there for.
But it must be in the plans. And I presume that, like any other building, when you've got permission to build, you have to stick to the plans, and it has to be inspected before you can actually use the building.
Yeah, what if I say that an NGO, Terra Cypria, was asking for the plans as part of the right to access environmental information, and the ministry refused? We have a problem with the marina. There is a lot more secrecy that I like. I need to explain, of course, that the deal with the marina was that the investor will actually build the marina for the boats to come in and manage it. We wouldn't pay for this, but we will allow him to build houses and develop real estate that he will sell and get the money back from selling the real estate. So, in effect, the government saw that without expense, you end up having a marina after 40 years that will be managed by government.
Build, operate, transfer.
Yes. Of course, the terms and conditions are such that the marina people make huge profits. And when you end up managing this, it will be very old. But in any case, there are two things that you have to check with the marina. The marina has in the water housing a real estate, and they're going to build tower blocks now in the water. And the other part of the marina is the boats, where the boats actually the berth. So for the houses, when you build them, it's easy to connect the houses to the sewage treatment plant. But there is a question how we manage the sewage coming in from the boats. So that is one of the things that we also suspect and we want to check. How does the Limassol Marina manage its sewage? We need to check this. To my mind, everybody is a suspect until it's declared innocent. So we need to check this.
How long is it going to take to check? It should be very simple, surely.
I say we need to check it. The government officials don't appear to be that ready to go and check. And to my mind, there is, in the whole sewage case in the sea, in Limassol, there is a peculiar silence from everybody. Nobody allows people to see the reports. All the politicians in Limassol are keeping quiet. And the ministry is just doing meetings. Every time there is a big row, a big revolt from the people in Limassol, they hold a meeting and they issue a statement that we are going to do more severe checks. But nobody does anything for years. So there is something suspect about the whole situation in Limassol.
What about how it can be cleaned up? I mean, we've been talking about how we can prevent it happening, but that is obviously, with all the things you've said, going to take some time. First of all, if there isn't the will to try and get this done. In the meantime, people are at the beach. It's the summer holidays. Is there any way that, dredgers or boats or something can go and sort of scoop up all this crap? Sorry, that's what it is.
It is, yes. The answer is no. We have by law, it's EU law, we have an emergency service if you have oil spills in the sea. Then the Marine Department of the Ministry of Agriculture, they have all the chemicals, all the right equipment, the boats, the big ships
but they also
that will go and clean up.
Sorry, they also have the booms that
yes.
circle around it.
They
Why can't those
everything.
be used? The pictures I've seen on social media show huge areas on top of the water.
Yes.
So surely you can contain that and then drain it off.
They say, when you ask them this, that our legal responsibility is for oil spills, not for any other type of waste. So if you have this type of waste, like sewage, for instance, Or the other type of waste we see sometimes on the sea, which is normal kitchen waste. They don't respond. There isn't a department in government that is responsible for responding to this type of pollution. The only legal responsibility if you have oil spills. So we need to fix this. There is a gap in the law. We don't have anybody responsible here.
Well, you're an MP, you can get that through Parliament.
Yes, I'm looking into that. But the problem with this is that I tried to do this with the distribution of leaflets in the houses, in the mailboxes in the houses, and we couldn't do anything because no government department accepted responsibility to overlook the law. And all the members in Parliament agreed that we should do this, but no government department was willing to take on the responsibility, so it didn't do with the law.
What about the health issues? Because that's something, so far I think we've escaped. But it is potentially a disaster waiting to happen for the health not only of the people of Limassol, but all the tourists who are there.
Okay, the problem is that we do now have a health issue. There are a lot of people that come out of the water with skin rashes, to say the least. So we know this for sure. I need to remind people that, for instance, in Governor's Beach last year, the lifeguards went in the water and called everybody to come out of the water because the people that were in the water started having skin rashes while in the water. I mean, immediately. So they called everybody to come out of the sea. Even the lifeguard was telling me that just to go in, just a little to call people to come out, he got skin rashes as well. We do have this, and dermatologists in Limassol, they have a lot of visits. And there are other issues as well. For instance, what about the sand? I have kids sitting on the sand. If I have sewage, we don't know what will happen to the sand. Is this polluted? Is this microbes? Or what is it that we have there that it might be dangerous, for instance, for the kids? Because they are there.
And what sort of microbes, and whether or not they survive a cold winter, and they'll be there next year.
Yeah.
Vamos, this is such a serious issue.
It is.
What can the House of Parliament, MPs, or indeed citizens do to try and boot whoever they need to boot up the bum to get on with sorting it out?
Okay, I'm behind the group of people that they formed an NGO, the Winter Swimmers in Limassol. They formed an NGO. They have a Facebook page, Όμιλος Χειμερινών Κολυμβητών. And I help them with the legal part and all the actions that they need to take. They wrote a letter last year to the previous mayor asking for the report that the BAC did, the university in Limassol. The mayor refused to allow them to get the report.
Why can't TEPAC just make it public?
Because they are not allowed to do this. If you do a service to a customer, it's the customer that has the legal responsibility to make it public. There is a law on public access for environmental information. This is 119 law of 2004, EU, coming in from the Arcus Convention, that says that any environmental information which is in the possession of any offices of the civil service or even the wider public service, it can be accessed by any citizen that requests access to it. We have here an environmental report that the mayor does not allow people to access. So I said to them that we need to now to go with a lawyer and sue them. We need to get the report.
And this is going to take years.
It's going to take, they are trying to delay all this. But this is the major pollution in the Limassol and all the major issues. There are other problems as well. You see, apart from the sewage, which is every few days, you get household waste, kitchen waste, which is not very often. The other type of pollution that we have is sometimes you go in the water and there is this shiny, oily crust on top of the water. And from what we heard in the university report, the BAC report, attributes that to the fish farm which is next to the new port in Limassol. From what I hear in the report, they suggest that there is a special eco-friendly chemical that you can use to actually disperse this. But of course the obligation is for the fish farm to actually apply its own regulations not to get this type of pollution coming in the water. But fish farms, they have high protection in Cyprus, and this is something that we need to look into as well. When I did a presentation last year, public presentation in Limassol about the pollution, they questioned me, why do you say this? And I say it's easy. All you need to do is go to Google Earth, turn on history, look at the fish farms outside the new port, turn on history and go back and you'll see the pollution from the satellite images.
And it does look as if it's going to take an awful long time to solve what is a very nasty problem in one of our major tourist resorts here in Cyprus. That's the pollution on the coast of Limassol. But as Bambos Theobemptou, former Environment Commissioner, also said, it's a problem that occurs in all the tourist areas of Cyprus, and one that really, since it's such a big part of our GDP, the government ought to get onto as soon as possible.
Get in touch with the Cyprus News Digest by emailing cyprusnewsdigest@gmail.com.
I think it's fair to say that civil servants in Cyprus get a pretty bad press. Sometimes it's perhaps merited, other times, of course, it's not. And I'm sure that all the people who work at our citizen service centres will be thrilled to know that their approval rating has gone pretty well through the roof. Back in 2014, 80.4% of visitors said they were satisfied. In 2017, that figure has risen to 92.4%. So that's very few people who don't feel that they have been well served when visiting a citizen service centre. The good news, therefore, is that more of them are going to be opening up. Joining us from the Ministry of Finance's Public Administration Department is Maria Alexandrou. Maria, it is nice to see civil servants who do work very hard getting the credit they deserve. And I haven't met a single person who's been to one of these service centres who hasn't been very impressed with the work ethic.
Thank you very much. We are trying to do our best through the citizen service centres the past 12 years. We have now 8 citizen service centres operating all over Cyprus, and we are trying to do our best to expand the services offered so that we improve the quality to the citizens.
Tell us first about these new ones that are going to be opening, I think, end of this year, beginning of next.
Yes, approximately in January 2018, we have scheduled 4 citizen service centres to open, one in Limassol, one in Kolossi, in Larnaca, and in Nicosia, Lecce area, which will be our 3rd in the Nicosia district.
Because they get a lot of customers, don't they? So this will presumably mean waiting times will be less and people will find one a little closer to home.
Yes, we are trying to do our best to reduce the waiting time and to expand the one-stop shops so that we have more citizen service centres servicing our citizens in the cities, but also in the rural areas.
So tell us about the services that are offered. You talked about a one-stop shop, and that's important, isn't it? People can go and do 2 or 3 jobs at the same time.
Yes, we offer about 90 different services from 10 different departments of the civil service. They expand from social insurance contribution records, identity cards, birth certificates, passports, and various applications for grants, allowances, and pensions. And we are in continuous discussions with ministries to expand the services offered via the 12 citizen service centres which will soon be operating.
Right, now since they've started, I presume it's relieved a lot of work from the people who are actually at those ministries. What do they do instead now?
Well, it has relieved some pressure off our colleagues in the ministries so that they concentrate and focus more on policy issues of the ministries themselves rather than on servicing the citizen.
And the move for e-government, because that would also, in a sense, do for the citizen service centres what they have done for their colleagues at the ministries. It means that there's a relief, in a sense, from the queues and the work that needs to be done if people can do it online at home.
Yes, that's true. We are trying as a government to have more e-government services online so that more citizens can apply online for their various services, and gradually the services offered by the departments and the one-stop shops themselves will be reduced, but it takes time to do this.
Any idea how much time?
I'm not sure about how much time. I only know that there is a plan by the government to expand the e-government services, and the plan is for 2017 and 2018 to have more and more online services.
In the meantime, these citizen service centres are operating. I don't think they shut down for holidays or anything, so people can still get the service that they need. You mentioned some of the things that people can do there, but is there, for example, online a list of the services offered?
There is a list of the services offered online via our website, the Public Administration and Personnel website, and via the Government Gateway website, where people can find out more information about the services offered and the procedures and the various documents that need to be brought forward so as to receive a service.
Available in other languages than Greek?
In the Government Gateway, yes, the information is also available in English.
So there you go. If you need the services of our citizen service centres, there is one pretty close to you wherever you happen to live in Cyprus. And 4 more will be opening at the beginning of next year. We've been talking to Maria Alexandrou from the Public Administration Department of the Ministry of Finance. Well, that about wraps up this edition of the Cyprus News Digest. Many thanks for your company. Hope you'll join me next week. Till we meet again, take care and God bless. Bye-bye now.